What's going on, nomads, party people, and strangers everywhere across the internet? My name is V, you know, like the letter, and I'm still kind of confused that this year had a lot of comic book movies and Stephen King adaptations. Two from stuff I honestly did not expect to be movies. And a bunch of you guys probably gonna be thinking, you know, V's taste would probably have been something like Gerald's Games. Why is he not reviewing this here? I'm gonna tell you guys in an upcoming video coming real soon. But right now we gotta talk about a novella written by Stephen King of 1922, which was adapted onto Netflix. So hooray! Another Netflix review. God, that's 3 of them now. So, synopsis of the novella adaptation. Set in, obviously, the year 1922, this farm by name of, I believe, Winston, was approached by his wife, I believe her name was Arnett, I believe that's what her name was, about selling their property for a little bit of money, moving to some kind of city, so that they can move with their son away from it all by just selling off 100+ acres of land to some newfangled developer that want to do something revolutionary for America. But back in 1922, a man's pride was his land. So in order to make sure he kept his land, he and his son concocted this plan, you know what I mean? Where they decided to go up to the wife in the middle of the night after getting her super plastered and drunk, and then just murder her in cold blood. And the whole year's then just spent on them trying to make sure that they keep the secret alive while keeping the farm intact, all in the glorious year of 1922. Terrible country accent aside, this is my whole thing about the film when I watched it when it was premiering yesterday. When I saw this whole thing from the get-go, all I could think in my mind was, who is this prideful? And that is the main question I had throughout the whole film, because the main characters, their whole motivations for keeping the farm kind of dwindled more and more as we kind of went into more storyline of, yeah, we need to probably sell off this land because you have no idea if there's going to be hardships coming. And even though I respect farmers, I think even they would know if there's going to be a bad feeling, and if they did something worse to that feeling, that they wouldn't end up on the profitable margin. Sometimes it's better just fold your cards and just walk away from the table. Wrong analogy aside, though, the only other thing I can say about this film is that I honestly enjoyed this more than I should have. Let me repeat that. I enjoyed 1922 more than I should have for 3 separate reasons. First reason, character interactions was believable from all the actors. It felt like people trying to live a rural life, having nothing to do with the newfangled ways of the city life, so they don't end up like them little Yanks across the way. They won't keep things all grounded and southern, you know what I mean? Second thing that I kind of applauded is that they tried to keep the era pieces as it were. People were desperate for money in certain areas, so they would try to rob banks. People wanted to make sure they kept onto their land, so there was actual secret murders about how to keep their acres of land. That is not something that's fictionalized. That's a well-known fact amongst a lot of people that knew people that owned land back in the 20s. A lot of people having this back and forth between people about teenage pregnancy, that's relevant today, where there are stories about, I'm 13 and pregnant, which is a fucking bullshit thing I'm gonna get onto for a huge rant fest in due time. So, from all this stuff of such a grounded realism, but also seeping into a psychological horror base about what guilt does to you and how that just diminishes your whole boundaries about what is or what isn't reality as the whole structure around you starts to deteriorate, as the grief and sorrow just built up into you in a giant McBain effect where everything will just start going wrong. You know, like Murphy's Law. It's like Murphy's Law. Anything that can go wrong will go wrong. That's the whole premise of this whole film, in my opinion, where everything that could have gone wrong if they didn't sell the farm right away did go wrong. And it just gets sadder and sadder to a very thought-provoking thing there at the end of the film where you just honestly had more questions to ask about your own character than you did the characters. That is something I will admit that I've always enjoyed about Stephen King's writing to a certain extent in other novellas, but this doesn't excuse the fact that the film's pacing, just like the novella's pacing, can be sort of a Sisyphean task. Like, if you guys don't really get the rural surroundings of stuff, it will just drag into you just like, oh my god, why are we talking about how there's cows and this stuff about dresses and shoes and about this guy sitting in the house and a cow just walks in out of nowhere. What? So I'm not going to say this movie is for everybody. If you enjoyed Stephen King movies before, you're going to probably like this one. If you like rural setting films, you're going to probably enjoy this for what it is. But if you're just someone that's like, hey, I want to do something this Halloween that's a little bit odd, then we got something. And that's all I'm going to say for now, because we will be going into 1922 later down the line for my upcoming review show that is actually having some news for itself, dropping this November. But until then, we got a whole slew of cropped up reviews to get to, so I'll see you guys a different day.
It's been a long week, let's have a longer weekend. Can we get higher, higher, higher? I'm just betting we can. Let's turn the lights down.